Wes, cold open question for you today that's about the NBA draft. It struck me, and I saw this take on a couple places online, so this isn't a wholly original take, but we live in this world where there's a lot of first round picks that have been traded and get
Mhm.
traded on the night. So my cold open question is, should we just stop giving guys the wrong hats when we know they're going to another team?
So I'm glad you brought this up. Um, yes, I don't know what this. I understand where the NBA is coming from in that none of these trades are official, and I guess teams could technically back out of them, but nobody does that. And I'd rather correct the error later than just get everybody confused the day of the draft, right? Because the thing, so I've been going to these draft watch parties for the last couple of years,
Yeah.
and what strikes me about being around the more casual fan is they're not on Twitter, right? Like they're not following the insiders as they're breaking news of the trades and things. Like they're just watching the TV program.
Yeah.
So the trade happens. Carter Bryant gets some hat that he's for a team he's never going to play for. The idea that he's technically drafted by a team and never plays for that team is ridiculous. And then poor Adam Silver has to come out and try to explain stuff like 8 picks later. And Adam Silver is a very good public speaker, I would say, at least like he's not the most engaging guy or compelling speaker, but he's
Yeah.
clean, right? Like he gets to the point. He's a lawyer, right? He talks like a lawyer. Even he's having a problem trying to explain what's going on with these picks. And like the poor just casual fan, it feels like you have to keep notes to watch the stupid NBA draft. The NBA has such a problem with making things so complicated. Just tell us who the guy is going to. Just announce, hey, this pick got traded to this team. Here are the details. Put the graphic up on the screen. Don't bother with the wrong hat. Put the right hat on the guy. And if for whatever reason something goes haywire with the trade later, then apologize and then mail the guy the right hat. But this whole thing is so ridiculous and it's impossible for fans to keep up with. It's hard for me to keep up with, and it's my job. Like
Yeah.
it's not fair. They need to fix it. Put the right hat on the kid. There you go. And we don't have to pretend like with these interviews and stuff. Just everybody call it as we see it. Do the right thing. Make it simple.
The one that struck me during this was Kaman Malic, and I'm definitely mispronouncing that, so I apologize. But he gets drafted. He's the pick he's drafted with 10th overall is the pick that goes to Phoenix and from Houston in the Kevin Durant trade. So he goes up on stage and he wears the Rockets hat.
Right.
Everyone, including that casual fan, I think, has some degree, and the broadcast is talking about how like this is going to Phoenix. Everyone knows it just can't be completed till the new league year starts. Thing on July 6th. Later in the night, he's doing media. He gets a Suns hat, so he gets the right hat. We are tacitly acknowledging that this is not a Houston Rockets player. This is already a Phoenix Suns player. That the Suns like made this pick through the Rockets. That's how this works. So why are we like, especially in that case, much like I get a little bit more of the inner draft trade nights. It's like hard to keep track. You got to make sure everything's dotted, whatever. Why are we even bothering with the guy who a couple days before we knew was not going to be on the team that's going to be picking him? Like when you know like whoever the 10th pick is, just have the VO guy in the arena, have Adam Silver. This guy is to be a trade to be completed. He's going to be a member of the Phoenix Suns. Put the Suns up there. Like it's just weird.
Yeah, and even in the graphics on ESPN, it would still show like before the picks were even made, Houston, or rather, Houston in the 10 spot, right? In
Yeah.
these mock drafts. And then under there would be like an asterisk proposed trade to Phoenix. The trade's done, okay? I know it's officially not done, but this is another argument to move the draft past the start of the new league year. Why are we technically doing the draft within the previous league season? That doesn't make any sense.
Or
just
like
push it or just
yeah.
flip the calendar. Figure out
Yeah.
a way where the draft actually happens in the new league year. If you are this gung-ho by your league that's run by an attorney and you're this gung-ho on dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and making sure everything is by the letter of the law, then just fix it. Nobody wants the draft to be 4 hours after the NBA Finals anyway.
No. If you moved everything back like a little bit, you could create like number one, you create like a showcase for like WNBA, I think a little bit, and I think that'd be positive. And two, you could like move back Summer League a little bit because I think part
And
of the
shorten
reason
Summer
is,
League. There's no reason for Summer League to be 2 weeks long. There's
also
zero reason for Summer
there's
League to be
also
2 weeks long.
3 summer leagues, which I think is fine. Actually think there's like the regional Summer League thing, and then like the big one I think is actually kind of fun. I've always wanted to go to like the Salt Lake Summer League one year, or like the Northern California one.
Yeah, it's fine. But the problem is, you look at the way the NFL does it. We have such a dramatic, and they go too long between the Super Bowl and the draft. Probably, I would argue about a month too long.
Well, and
But
they and like the
I would
combine,
rather have that
the
lead up
combine
of
for
content.
the combine for them is like such a bigger event than I feel like the NBA combine is, and it's also like I know like there's reporters go and there's like scuttlebutt, but it does not feel like the same degree of the combine in Indianapolis where like everyone descends in the way that I don't think that
Because it's happening in the middle of the playoffs, right?
So
like
why you're gonna send
the
like one or
combine
two
is right in the
guys.
middle of the postseason. Just wait. And do we really need Summer League? Like, honest question.
I think it should be a week. It should be a week long, and that's it. It shouldn't be 2 weeks.
Do a week.
2 weeks in Vegas is crazy in any way.
For any human being that doesn't live in Las Vegas should not be in Las Vegas for 2 weeks. It should be literally illegal. Yeah,
you
the
get a ping on your phone. It's like, hey, it's day 8. Get out. Or you're like, here's all the risks of things that are going to happen if you stay in Vegas.
And the problem is, this goes along with the NBA's storytelling problem. Also, this was actually one of my takes for the episode, Chris. So I'm glad you just like that's I think why we're going long on the cold open here.
Yeah.
But the NBA has a storytelling problem that we've been talking about for a long time.
Yeah.
It would help if we had more of a lead up to the draft so that we got to know these players a little bit more, right? Like, we're shoehorning all of these stories in on draft night. We're having these rushed conversations about what Cooper Flag means to Dallas the day of and the day after the draft. We have no time to process it. And guess what? Free agency starts on Monday. We have almost no time to even process the draft. And then there's this huge break in September where nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the NBA essentially goes dark, which is fine. I think every league needs about a dark month, one dark month.
The NBA, I think, does not want a dark month. I think is like the
right.
The
if you need to stretch it all out, stretch it all. Put Summer League in September. Who cares? Like, these players, half the players in Summer League they're not going to be like tired for the regular season. That to me was the biggest problem. Is you have this amazing story like VJ Edgecombe, who in the middle of his interview was talking about how he had to live on a generator. Him and his family had to live on a generator for 7 years of his life, that he didn't have electricity in his home.
Yeah. That's
an incredible story that was just shoehorned into the middle of this night. We got about a minute with the guy. But if we had a full month-long build-up or a 3-week build-up to the draft, we would be able to have time to learn about these players and get invested in these players and their future and what it means. Because people walk into the draft a few days after the end of the season. Why should we be excited about a player I've never heard of getting drafted to a team whose pick I'm not sure if it's theirs or not, or if he's even going there? And what hat is he wearing? And is it the right hat?
100%.
It's too confusing. And that's why it doesn't resonate with the casual fan the way that the NFL draft does. So 19 of the 30 draft slots were not chosen by the team that owned the draft slot. 19 of the 30 picks in the first round were traded, in other words. That's a lot. I also think that the NBA has a problem with how many picks are being traded.
Yeah. And it's probably something you should have at least one long meeting about to figure out how you market it correctly, because you're not in a space like this is a marketing function as much as it is like an order of operations. Like, I read this David Aldridge column, and he's not the first person to write this column, but he alluded to this, that like he's just like abolished the draft. He like made this case. It was a very well thought out. I'm not sure if I'm there.
I'm definitely not there. I think I respect David Aldridge. He made a good case. It's a horrible idea.
Part of the reason it's a horrible idea is I think the draft is like a marketing event for the league. You have to think of it as much as it is like a giving teams like relatively fair shots to get talent. It is also like a way to market the league, and that's why it's 2 nights now. It's not 2 nights because the second night is exciting. It is another night where the NBA, when you open up your TV and you see what's on, and you open up your ESPN app and you read content, it is another day where the NBA is in the news cycle. That is what it is.
Hashtag content.
It is content. It is all content now. That's why Brian Windhorst is on like a stream.
Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. I'm so confused by how much content is out there, but it's great. Look, yeah, the NBA has to fix it. I hate being the guy that just always talks about how much the NBA needs to fix, but I feel like I'm always that guy. But it's just like obvious stuff. And instead of fixing it, they're adding like in-season tournaments and alternative jerseys that nobody likes.
I will say that there are some ones I've seen leak this year that the Cavs ones they're going to bring it back apparently the 03 to 07 LeBron navies with like the check like.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, they're bringing it back like a real one, not like the Celtics one that it's a whole different shade of green from what the Celtics green actually is for some reason.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. Like the NBA makes it so hard and so complicated for a fan to get into it, and the amount of questions that I get of what does this mean and why is there this apron and all this stuff, it's so steeped in legal mumbo jumbo.
Mm-hmm.
Not just with the aprons, but certainly with that. But like again, with they're so about being to the letter of the law that we can't even just say who this player is going to on the draft, even though we all know who that player is going to. Just tell us that the Suns have the number 10 pick. I don't care that Houston ever owned it. It's immaterial to the casual fan where the pick started. All the casual fan cares about is who's making this pick and who's this player going to. That's all they don't explain to me where this pick came from. It doesn't matter. The casual fan does not care. And if you're really locked in like you and I, we already know.
Yeah, put it on like the media who's uberly paying attention to this to explain this well. And
the only person, even if you're a casual fan and you really care about, like, wait, I'm a Suns fan or a Jazz fan or a Wizards fan, and wait, I thought we had the 20th pick and now we have the 23rd pick. How'd that happen? You'll figure it out.
Yeah, and in 2 days you won't care.
It's ridiculous.
The next morning over your coffee you won't care. All right. Glad we did a long clip, and I think that was a worthwhile one, Wes. But let's get into our full show, which is NBA Draft 6. Ace Bailey, what are the Nets doing? What are the Suns doing? A lot of confusion for me, I will say, on this NBA Draft After Day 1 show. It's coming up today on the Just Basketball Show. Let's go.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
What is up, everyone? Chris Manning, Wes Goldberg here on the Just Basketball Show, your twice-weekly show covering all things hoops. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, review on your podcast platform of choice. Hit the notification bell if you have not already. And Wes, we're as always powered by our friends at BetMGM.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code JustBasketball. You'll get up to $1,500 in a first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Sign up using the code JustBasketball. It applies at least $10. Place your first wager on any game, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. Just make sure to use the bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, let's go to our first. Wes, I gave a take off the rip and I cold open. So give me your first take from this NBA draft.
Joe Dumars is back, baby.
He's so back.
He's working both phones.
Two phones.
He's confused. So are we. Dumars is so back. He said, you know what? We had finally transitioned out of an era of having some really bad general managers running the Pistons, running the Knicks, running the Timberwolves, running all these franchises in a woebegone kind of way. And Joe Dumars said, hold my beer. Hold both of my beers and all of my phones. I'm coming back. So he took over maybe the saddest franchise in the league. Sorry, Sacramento Kings. Took over the New Orleans Pelicans, a team that barely wants to be there. And he said, I'm going to make it worse. You had David Griffin, who I thought did a fine job. I'm going to come in and replace him. And I'm going to make it so much worse for you guys. I'm going to make it so bad. And so what did he do? Right off the rip, took Jeremiah Fears. Number 7 overall. I don't see it with him. Small guard, can't finish at the basket. Okay shooter, not great from the outside. Decent floater, doesn't really, okay passer, but super competitive. Had some good games late in the season. Joe Dumars watched those games, said that's my guy. I'm not a Jeremiah Fears guy. All the draft experts who I follow and very much respect are also not Jeremiah Fears guys. Joe Dumars, he's a Jeremiah Fears guy. So he does that right off the bat. Okay. I'm like, all right. You passed up Cayman Malioch. You passed up Cedric Howard. You passed up Carter Bryant. You passed up a lot of players who might have made a little bit more sense for you up there. He doesn't care. But he did not stop there. Nope. Joe Dumars worked both phones, got in touch with the Atlanta Hawks at 13 and said, nope, I'm not done yet. There's one more guy I got my eye on. He trades up 10 spots in the draft from 23 to 13 to take Derek Queen out of Maryland. A big man who I quite liked. I wasn't as high on him as a lot of people were, but I thought he a skilled big man, had a lot of potential there, very exciting. He moved up 10 spots to get him. What did he trade? The 23 pick in this draft and an unprotected
This is
in the 2026 draft.
This is the one to me, man. This is it. This is the whole. This is why I hate this.
It's the best. It's a pick swap. The best pick coming over from either New Orleans or Milwaukee. Chris, one of those picks is going to be damn good. Milwaukee does not have Damian Lillard next year. New Orleans does not have DeJounte Murray next year, although I'm not sure how material that actually is. But we know that Zion's going to miss games. We know the other thing we know about New Orleans, they play in the Western Conference. What do they think they're doing next year? They've got two rookies that they just took. How good DeJounte Murray's hurt. No question, no telling what Zion Williamson is going to bring to the table. How good do they think they're going to be next year? Their own pick, it's the most favorable out of Milwaukee or New Orleans. How good do they think they're going to be? And even if they think they're going to be that good, Milwaukee's not going to be good.
Want to remind you that they also have turned CJ McCollum, a veteran presence, into Jordan Poole.
So it's they don't even have Kelly Olynyk anymore, who I thought was a fine player.
They got rid of like the adults in the organization who were like, what if we got Jordan Poole?
Like you saw the vision with the Jordan Poole trade. Okay, yeah. Let's take a chance on Jordan Poole. Let's sort of get younger, shake it up a little bit. Like I saw the vision at least. Now I don't see the vision because it was sort of a hedge against yourself. You're like, all right, Jordan Poole might shoot us out of 20, 30 games this season. We could be bad, and we just have an awesome pick and an awesome draft. People like the 2026 draft more than the 2025 draft. This is absolutely insane. Joe Dumars is the worst thing to happen to the Pelicans since they moved there. I have zero idea what he's doing here. I have more on the Joe Dumars part, but when we do winners and losers, nobody lost the night more than the Pelicans, and I legitimately feel bad for the 5 Pelicans fans who are out there.
Here's what I'll say. I have two thoughts kind of conflicting on this. Number one, well, and they're all negative about Joe Dumars, to be clear. Number one, I think this might be the hardest GM job in the NBA. Everything you hear about the facilities, about the ownership, I think this is just like a really hard job. This just made his job a lot harder. Like, okay, the fierce thing, it's like, I'm with you. I don't totally get it. If you want to make the argument for it, there's like something there that maybe you can develop. Okay, sure. Trading a 2026 pick to trade up 10 spots to take a center the year after you took a center and you've Missy is just and potentially being a really bad team in a loaded Western Conference and giving up like a high draft pick is malpractice. That is like a fireable general manager offense to me. Like if Tom Benson and the Pelicans ownership tomorrow were like, we probably should just like go hire like somebody else right now. Like Bob Myers, do you want $10 million to like be our interim GM just to like shepherd us for 6 months, please? Because of what Joe Dumars did here, it is incredibly horrible asset management. It almost all the moves they've made the last week make me feel like they are actually like tanking for next year, but they traded away their damn pick for next year.
Right.
Like the moves are like, we're actually going to be bad. And like, maybe if someone offered us something good for Herb Jones, we would trade Herb Jones right now or something like that. But instead you like don't have an incentive to be bad next year. I don't understand any of this from the Pelicans. This is a boring general managership from Joe Dumars.
And again, I wouldn't say I was high on Derek Queen. I'm probably agnostic on Derek Queen, but a lot of people really like Derek Queen. So I'm like, okay, a lot of people are respect. I'm like, okay, I guess I like Derek Queen. I don't like Derek Queen now. I like if Joe Dumars likes him this much,
Yeah.
he's going to be terrible. Can I just remind people of Joe Dumars' draft history? Here's what he's done in the lottery in his career.
Can't wait.
Darko Milicic. He took Darko. I could stop there.
Yeah.
He's
Darko,
the guy responsible for taking Darko.
Maybe we have some younger people out there that don't understand. Like, that's LeBron. If LeBron goes 1.
LeBron goes 1. Darko goes 2. You've got Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh in that draft. If you've never heard of Darko, that's the point. He took Rodney White. He took Mateen Cleaves, all in the lottery. If you're a younger basketball fan who's never heard of those players, that's the point. This guy has a horrible record drafting at the top of the draft. Horrible. So when he took Jeremiah Fears, it wasn't surprising to me. I'm like, yep, that makes sense. Joe Dumars has the wrong eye for talent. He's blind to talent, essentially. But again, people like Derek Queen. I think Derek Queen could be a good player. It's also a terrible fit in New Orleans. He's an undersized center. He doesn't space the floor enough to be a 4. They also have a 4 in Zion Williamson. They have a 5, to your point, Chris. They drafted a 5 last year in Yves Missy, who I liked. I was a David Griffin pick. I liked him a lot. Where does he play? Does he fit with Zion? Next to Zion, you need size and rebounding. Derek Queen's an okay rebounder, but he's not overly big. There's not a lot of size there. I don't know that you could play him with Zion. And if you're playing him next to Yves Missy, I don't know that you have enough spacing. And then where's Zion playing? So is this guy just your third big? Okay. Like, let's say you wanted a Naz Reid. Fine. I get it. I understand the idea. But you traded up 10 picks and an unprotected pick next year to get your Naz Reid. That's just not good value, dog. I don't know what to tell you. This is almost as bad as the Luka Doncic trade. And I think it needs to be talked about in that regard. It is almost as short-sighted.
They can't even get the thing the Mavericks did, which is get really lucky and then get the number 1 pick and get.
That's
Cooper
what I'm
Flight.
saying.
They can't get AJ DeBanza next year. They don't have Kyrie and Anthony Davis and a bunch of other good NBA players around the roster to like soften the blow a little bit. And Klay Thompson at where he's at in his career. This is like. You like have like a car that already has like 2 busted wheels, and you're like, instead of like replacing the wheels, you're like, I'm gonna try to put in like new like lights underneath it so it looks cooler when I'm crashing off the side of the road. That's what this feels like.
And
that was a horrible analogy.
I understand that at 7, maybe Jeremiah Fears wasn't at the top of their board, although I would argue he probably was. But let's like. Ace Bailey, it sounded like he I know we're going to get into Ace Bailey here in a second. It sounded like he wanted to play in New Orleans.
I have a lot of Ace.
Why would you not trade up at the top of this draft?
Can I just say,
like, what would Philadelphia have said if you offered your unprotected 2026 pick to move up to 3?
Probably would have said
and potentially get VJ Edgecombe or Ace Bailey or Con Nepal.
I will just say on the Ace Bailey front, maybe Utah will be. I think in some ways Utah might be like a good landing spot for him. We'll get to that. Yeah. I think him in New Orleans might have been a disaster. If we have seen what has gone on with Zion, with like him, and then you put everything we have heard about Ace Bailey in the last 2 weeks has scared me off of Ace Bailey. It would scare me to have him in an organization that I don't think can be trusted for anything. Like the guys that have been successes in New Orleans, your Herb Joneses, your Trey Murphys. Those guys are like, I think it is more about like them than it is anything that New Orleans has done.
My overall point was, if you were going to sacrifice your unprotected 2026 pick, why are you doing that to move up to the end of the lottery?
It's crazy.
As opposed to moving up at the top of the draft to get one of these highly touted generational type of prospects. Why are you doing it for Derek Queen? Sorry, Pelicans fans. That's a rough night for you. And it's going to hurt a lot in a year. When when your pick ends up being in the top 10, probably maybe even the top 5.
It's bad. Let's talk about Ace Bailey.
Wait. I have 2 more Joe Dumars points.
Oh, please.
Just a reminder again of some of the bad moves he made. He traded Chauncey Billups for washed up Allen Iverson.
Yeah, he did.
He also, not only is he bad in the draft, he's really bad at managing the cap. So there was a year where they got Rasheed Wallace, and after the Billups for Iverson trade, Rasheed Wallace and Allen Iverson were both coming off the books. and they were going to have Detroit was going to have a ton of cap space. And instead of using that cap space on young players and kind of doing something within their timeline and kind of rebooting, they just signed Charlie Villanueva and Ben Gordon to huge, massive contracts. So they basically were just dealing with these huge, massive contracts for washed up, overpaid players for basically 8 or 9 years. They basically wasted a decade there after those early aughts title runs. So, yep. Congrats to Joe Dumars. All right, I'm done.
I'm so sorry, Pelicans fans. I'm really sorry. Let's talk about someone who I don't think is happy, and that's Ace Bailey. There's a bajillion ways you could look at this Ace Bailey thing. I think it's the most fascinating pick in the draft. I don't think it's a question for me. I'm fascinated by this in a bajillion different ways. I think the Jazz did the right thing for them. I could understand trepidation, Wes, if you're a fan there, or like maybe there's someone in the front office arguing, okay, like this guy clearly doesn't want to be here. A lot of he has an agent who's not an agent. Been reports about him asking for money for interviews, all kinds of like stuff that is just like red flag. Widely considered for a long time a top 3 talent in this class. Was trying to push his way a certain way. You're not a team that I think can be like picky about talent and want to be there. We have seen teams scared off in the past of not drafting guys, right? Like the Cavs, I think examples, they didn't take Shea because they didn't want to come here in 18. They took Sexton. And Halliburton also reportedly kind of was like pushing his way to not end up in Cleveland when he came out. We're in this world with Utah where I just think you got to take the guy and just bring him in and trust that you can like get the most out of him. And like if he wanted to be in the East Coast, whatever, that's up to him. Like that's kind of over now. You're gonna pay him a lot of money. You have a coach that you I think trust in Will Hardy with this contract extension they've given him. I think this is just the kind of thing that you have to just be willing to bite the bullet on this if you're in a position of Utah. If they were like a little further along, I might have been more hesitant to do this. But where they're at, like, what's the risk? He has a bad rookie year, and you want to be bad this year anyway. So like, what is necessarily the harm of just taking the talent play and hoping and trying to and just saying we got the guy we had second or third on our board at 5? Like, what's even if we didn't get to work him out? You did all the scouting. Daryl Morey last night said, I don't really value in-person work. That might have been a hedge against. There was some Edgecombe reporting that he didn't shoot well in Philly, and they took him anyway. I don't know how much these in-person things matter. I think it's just you take him and you figure it out. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And in regards to the in-person workout part, I tend to agree that the in-person workout stuff is pretty overrated. I don't know why I need to get a guy in an empty gym in my own facility.
The only one that it's ever mattered for that I've heard is the Bam Adebayo one.
Yeah, no, and there's definitely value for it. I'm not trying to say that there's no value to it whatsoever, but look, you can go to the games, you can watch them play in a game. A lot of these guys meet and sit down. A lot of these front offices rather meet and sit down with players at the draft combine in Chicago, right? It's not like they're going in blind. That's the part that's always kind of missed here. When we never brought him in for a private workout. Well, you had a private meeting with him in Chicago, probably. I mean, these front offices do all the rounds. Cooper Flagg interviewed with more than just Dallas. Teams just do the due diligence. You never know what's going to happen.
And to me, it's a good sign when guys like Jalen Green. Like it was a thing when in that draft that he didn't want to. He was like, I want to be picked 2 or 1. So he only interviewed with 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. I kind of like love when a guy like Cooper Flagg that knows he's going 1 is just like, yeah, I'm gonna like do my job here and just like represent myself well.
And
there was something about
obviously Ace Bailey wasn't doing that, but look, you've got just in the general concept of. Look, you can at least go see these guys. You can get the medicals in Chicago. You have to be there. There was some stuff about Ace Bailey not necessarily sending his medicals to teams, and the league had to step in. But whatever. There's ways around getting information outside of just a private workout. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
To your point, I like that the Jazz took him. It's a talent play. Best guy on the board, and I don't really care about fit when we're talking about. And I think it's actually a pretty good fit in Utah, but. Just in general, I thought it was a little weird when people, where does Ace Bailey fit and all these things? I'm like, all these teams stink.
Yeah.
Like, why do they care about fit? Like, why would you care about his fit with a player who might not be there 2 or 3 years from now?
Right.
If you think Ace Bailey is the best player available and you
Take
love his shot making and you think he could be an all-star in the future, just take him. And that's what the Jazz did. They didn't overthink it.
And if you want to like clear out shots for him, you could probably flip Colin Sexton somewhere and give up a pick to clear out shots for him. You could just give him the minutes anyway and not really think about it too much. Like, it's very easy just to get him minutes, and it's like you still have Markkanen on the roster for now. You still have Walker Kessler. Maybe they trade one or both of those guys. Like, you have some stuff to make his life easier as a rookie.
The front court of Kessler, Markkanen, and Bailey, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
They still have questions at the guard spot. I know they took Walter Clayton Jr. at the end of the first round, who I liked. They have Isaiah Collier from last year. They still have Keontae George from a couple of years ago. Maybe one of these young guys pops. It feels like they still need some sort of solution at that guard spot. But in the meantime, I think it makes more sense to take Ace Bailey as opposed to somebody like Trey Johnson or Jeremiah Fears or Igor Demin. I think that just Bailey was overwhelmingly the better talent.
What do you make of the side of him that really of him wanting to? Well, let me frame it this way: are you surprised a team that like he wanted to go to didn't try to move up? Like, as far as we know, there was not a single thing about Brooklyn who will get to like offering like 3 picks to move up or Washington moving up. There was nothing about these teams I think actively trying to go get a guy. I think they all kind of hoped he's just going to fall to us. That's what it feels like, which is if I knew Danny Ainge was picking at 5, I'm probably not betting on that happening.
Yeah, I mean, look, if Ace Bailey wanted to try to get to Washington and New Orleans or Brooklyn at 6, 7, and 8, then he failed. Him and his agent failed at their goal, obviously, because he ended up going to Utah at 5. It's risky. That's risky business, man. Like, that is putting a lot of your own eggs in somebody else's basket. Like, they control your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot of people to figure out a trade, especially in the lottery, especially the top 5, right? Top 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, a lot. I mentioned 19 of the 30 picks got traded. None of those picks in the top 9.
Right.
We tend every year we go into the draft thinking, they're open to offers at 1 or open offers at 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Those picks are rarely traded.
The Tatum traded. The Tatum Fultz thing is an anomaly in this whole
thing. And you have such quick recall for that for a reason, right? Because it is an anomaly.
It's the one that happened. Yeah.
I think if they didn't want to end up there, they misplayed their hand. At the same time, I think this is about the right spot for him to go.
Yeah.
Right. Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, obviously the top 2 guys in this draft. I always liked Edgecombe more than Bailey. I think that he was the 3rd best player in this draft. And Kneppel is just an easier fit. He does more things than Ace Bailey does. He's a better prospect than Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
So the raw talent is there for Ace Bailey. He might end up being better than some of these guys, but 5 feels about right for where he is in this draft. And even if you think Bailey might be a little bit better than Kneppel or something like that, again, you have 1 tier in Cooper Flagg, you have a 2nd tier in Dylan Harper, and then you probably have Edgecombe, Kneppel, and Bailey, and another tier in that 3rd tier by themselves. And you could put those guys in whatever order in that tier. I'm here. It's fine if you want to debate that. That's fine. So the fact that he went in that spot, that makes sense for him. I can't say that anybody that drafted in front of Utah, you can't really argue that they passed up on Ace Bailey because they like the players that they got, and you can argue they're better prospects than Ace Bailey is.
Yeah. All right. What's your next take?
I like Charlotte's draft.
Yeah, I don't know who's playing center for them, but I agree with you that they got good players.
Yeah, I liked Kneppel for them a lot. And between Kneppel and Brandon Miller, those are 2 of the more polished prospects that we've seen come out over the last few years, who just make intuitive sense together, right? I think Brandon Miller is probably a little bit more of an attacker offensively and a little bit more versatile defensively. Certainly more versatile defensively and a way higher ceiling on that end. Kneppel, I like what he can do with the ball in his hands a little bit more than Brandon Miller. I like his floor spacing ability more than Brandon Miller. But those guys feel like a tandem that can play off of each other and can play with LaMelo Ball. If Charlotte really is this dedicated to LaMelo Ball, I know that there was some reporting going into the draft that maybe they were a Trey Johnson or a Jeremiah Fears destination.
Yeah.
but Kneppel always made the most sense for them. So I'm glad that they basically went Kneppel here. I like him. And then they at the later on in the draft, they got hold on here, Liam McNeely out of UConn.
Yeah.
So Charlotte was Liam McNeely is one of the best shooters in the draft, right? The top 3 shooters in this draft, top 4 shooters in this draft in some order: Trey Johnson, Con Kneppel, Liam McNeely, and Walter Clayton Jr. Those are probably the top 4 shooters in this draft.
Yeah.
Charlotte came away with both of them, and they were a team in the bottom 5 in three-point shooting percentage last year. And as we know, Charles Lee from the Boston coaching staff, he wants to get up threes. More importantly, he wants to make threes. And they did. They got up threes last year. They didn't make a lot of them. They come away out of the first round with 2 of the better three-point shooters. It felt like they had a plan. They knew what they wanted to accomplish. They wanted to increase their three-point shooting proficiency, and they come away from the first round with 2 of the better 4 three-point shooters in the draft. So I thought it was a job well done.
I think also just clearly, I think in trading Mark Williams, I think they just feel like they were just kind of done with the Mark Williams. Like they
and they ended up getting 2 firsts for him. So
yeah,
not bad.
No, and it worked out. You still, I think, again, need a center, but you have a roster now of Brandon Miller, LaMelo. You have Bridges there as kind of like the veteran dunker kind of guy. You can play some small ball 5 with him. You have wings now, Con Kneppel being the lead one. Like, you have, like, a very modern Charles Lee kind of roster now, which I think is, like, this is the first time in a couple of years, maybe since they fired Borrego, that I feel like the Hornets have, like, a really good, clear identity and plan for what they're doing. Like, this feels like the start of, like, actually, like, moving forward a little bit. It's still not, like, they're still 2-3 years away from, I think, like, really mattering.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be that long in the East.
Okay, maybe I don't think it's this year, but maybe the year after. Right? Like
if they could stay healthy, I think they could be a playing team this year.
Yeah.
Trey Mann is a restricted free agent. I know he's coming off of an injury there, but if they bring him back, I like him a lot as their 6th man. He was really good for them last season. And they'll figure out the center spot. Like you said, I think you're spot on. They were probably over Mark Williams. That was obvious when they tried to trade him in the first place. So they ended up trading him. Kind of an L for the Lakers, but it felt like maybe I don't know if the Lakers necessarily wanted Mark Williams back.
Hornets, I think the Hornets arguably got a better return now than they would have from the Lakers.
I think so. I think that's right. Especially considering that they didn't trade for Dalton Knecht, and then they took 2 awesome shooters who Kneppel's a better prospect than Knecht was. McNeely's not as good of a prospect, but he's very similar in terms of sort of archetype. So, yeah, you didn't have to trade your guy for him, and you end up getting a first-round pick for it instead. So that's a position that they can – they don't have to solve everything at the draft, right? They can solve the center spot in free agency. They can go get a guy, or they can make a trade. You know, they still have the Josh Green, Grant Williams contracts that maybe they can move to go get a center. Like, they could figure out that spot over the next couple of months.
Feels like a good Clint Capella landing spot.
Yep.
Rim runner, veteran. Get him for a year, maybe 2nd year team or player option or something like.
Could you throw the mid-level or partial part of the mid-level at Kevon Looney, right? Just get in another adult in the room who can anchor your defense for a little while.
It's a lot of money for a guy who's going to play 18 minutes a game for you, but I see the vision.
Right. Yeah, you pair Kevon Looney with one other guy and you just do it that way. There's a lot of names that make some sense for them.
Yeah. They'll be able to get like a veteran, which I think is the whole.
Yeah. I think that would be the way to go.
Good jump. All right, let's go to Brooklyn.
Let's do this.
What are the Nets doing?
I hated their draft.
I hate this draft. I understand if you like some of these. Like, it's not even to me about like who they took, because I can't sit here and tell you that I like know all these guys detailed, have strong takes about all of them. I don't like the process. I don't like we have a history in the league of guys teams taking a lot of young guys and a year later being like, oh, we have too many young guys. They drafted a lot of guards and then a point center. It kind of just feels like you're like, let's just throw darts out and see if any of these guys stick, and then a year from now we can like maybe draft like our real centerpiece and be bad this year. That's what this feels like to me. This just feels like that's what they're doing. And maybe they couldn't trade up. Maybe they just got denied and kind of got stuck using all these picks. But it's just like you used all the picks on like a lot of the same stuff. And that to me is weird. That to me is bad process if you're Sean Marks.
I don't disagree with you. At the same time, the response to Brooklyn's draft has been so overwhelmingly negative that
That maybe-
I have like a
yeah.
feeling that I kind of want to zag here and play devil's advocate
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That's I it's hard to get there. Like, part of me just naturally wants to go there, and it's hard for me to build the argument. I actually like the idea of using all 5 first-round picks. I'm okay with it. The goal isn't to be good. The goal is to be bad and go get your star next year in the draft. I understand that. They got all their picks back, right? They still have their 2026 first. I think this makes a lot of sense. I also think it makes a lot of sense if you don't have that elite prospect pick, if you don't have one of the top 3 or 4 picks in this draft, take as many bites at the apple as possible, knowing that not all of them are going to pop. But if 1 or 2 of them pop, then that's probably a win, right? Yes, they had 5 first-round picks. Most of them, they had the 8th pick. Everything else after that was in the bottom 11 of this draft, 11 to 12 of this draft. So it's not like they had a bunch of great picks in this draft, right? They had a lot of late picks in this draft. So it's like, all right, what are we really going to do with these things? Let's just take bites at the apple. That said, I thought that was way too high for Igor Demon.
Yeah.
I don't know where, they obviously wanted to get a ball handler type. And most of the better guards were off the board at that point. They passed up Kasparis Jakuchunas, who went to my Miami Heat, so thank goodness for that. I don't know. I felt like they could have done something different at that 8 spot. You don't have to pigeon your whole. So I guess maybe you wanted a guard, but the best guards were already off the board. So maybe you go with a Colin Malawach or just one of these prospects who are a little bit more.
Malawach felt like the right move there because you have Nick Claxton and it's like okay,
right?
Just take a really young center that you have time to develop. That just seems like a good thing to do.
Or even like a big swing like a Noah Senge, and maybe they were just out on a Senge, and if their scout told them out on a Senge, then I respect it. But it just felt like there was other options there, and they go for the first real reach of the draft. Nolan Traore later in the draft, I don't mind it at 19. I'm not a Traore guy, but I know a lot of people who really respect him. Rafael Barlow, who's the NBA draft big board, he's really high on Traore. He's a guy who had lottery potential for a long time and then had a down season in France. The outside shooting is pretty shaky with him, but there's no questioning his skill. He's like 6'5", lightning quick first step. If it hits, he's going to be a starting quality point guard. But it could equally just not work out for him. Drake Powell, that also felt like a little bit of a reach to me. That was somebody that I thought might go in the second round. But he's a good defender. So they have that, I guess. What made it weird is that they passed on Kasparis Jakuchunas, one of these sort of 6'6" European point guard types, which there was 3 of them in this draft. It was Demon, Jakuchunas, and Ben Seraph. They kept passing on the guy that most people thought was better, and then got the 2 guys who they thought were worse, Igor Demon and Ben Sarf. So they go ahead and take Sarf later. The Danny Wolf pick, I don't mind. If I'm going to play devil's advocate, what I like here is that everybody outside of Drake Powell can handle the ball. And if the identity, if the vision here in Brooklyn is, hey, we just want all 5 spots to be able to handle a little bit and play make, then I get it. I get it from that respect. But I just don't know that they got the best value out of these picks.
First team ever to use 5 first-round picks.
Yeah.
No team has ever done it. They also have 36. We're recording this before the round 2. They have another pick.
Yep.
This is just like a lot of young bodies to figure out what to do with. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the plan. I think this would have been one of the teams would have been a mistake to go 2-in on this year because the East is open. Like this is the team that should not have the meeting of like, should we just throw gas on this and move forward? This is not the team to do that in this East. They would never could have made that jump and not sacrifice something big picture. It just feels like something's off, but this could just be one of those talent read things too. It is just one of those things where like their board could have just been this. Or to some degree, and had really good reads. Or maybe Jordy Fernandez, they're like, we just want as many ball handlers to work with him. They've had a revolving door of point guard since Kyrie left. Have not really had stable guards since then, or really since like the Dinwiddie, D'Lo kind of run there under Atkinson. Like it's been a little bit since they've had just like normal stable guard play. Maybe they just want to have that controlled and view that as an asset advantage. It's hard to like it right now when it's just kind of so out of whack with I think what seems like the logical thing to do.
Yep.
By the way, Charlotte does have Yusuf Nurkic under contract next year, so they do have a center.
No, I'm aware.
Okay. I just wanted $19 million.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Can I give you one more take here?
Yeah, I have
Just
one
a quick
other.
one?
I have another short one as well. I just want to like raise the flag on a team. So you go first, then I'll do mine.
I didn't mind what Phoenix did. I kind of
Okay.
thought it was baller.
I liked it until the two firsts, like giving up the late. I think they needed that to keep 29. Like get another body this year.
I don't love them giving up the future first there. I do like the idea. I don't even know if I really like Mark Williams for him as much. I like the idea of what they did. They went out and traded for Mark Williams, who ostensibly can play right now, and then they went ahead and drafted Malawach at 10, who's nobody doubts his ceiling and his upside. Everybody also says he's extremely raw and probably not ready to start for you right away. Phoenix was so sick of not having an answer at center that they just said, screw it. We're getting two of them on one night within minutes of each other. So I know some people laughed at it and were like, what are they doing? I can't believe they're doing it. I kind of saw the vision, right? You have Mark Williams there for a couple of years. Maybe he pops, and then maybe you're able to trade him down the line when you feel like Malawach is really coming into his own and he's ready to take over. You still have Nick Richards on the roster. I like when teams throw money at a problem sometimes, right? Where you're just like, look, this is a giant hole for our roster. We need to fix it. Let's just throw money at it. Let's figure it out. Let's go ahead and fix it. I theoretically don't have the problem with it. Mark Williams probably wouldn't have been my pick to be the super reliable center that I need on day one, but I see the vision.
Yeah. I think if maybe they don't have a lot of flexibility to spend money, so it's like hard for them to probably be in the running for a Capella or any of the centers that are like worth a damn on the market. So you probably just maybe feel like you had to do this. I still think there's just like such risk of this blowing up in their face in like a year that I'm just like, are we sure this is like gonna like kind of be like there's just a little bit of fear for me long term with it, but I think they're more functional now than they were to some degree, right? Like Brooks,
they have real assets now. Like,
yeah, they have real assets.
Jalen Green is a guy who they might be able to trade down the road. Mark Williams is a guy who they could trade down the road. This is a team that, to your point, short on draft assets, but we just mentioned most draft picks get traded anyway. So if they feel like they need to get into a draft in a couple of years, it feels like they have the ability to do it. So it is a little risky. It's not a home run, but I like when a team just throws money at a problem and says, we got to fix this right now.
Don't hate it. It's the Suns maybe didn't have another choice. They've been doing that since Dispute took over, so maybe just have to continue on that path and hope for the best.
What's your main take?
Yep. I don't understand what the Trailblazers are doing right now.
Yeah,
there's two parts of this. Number one, all the reporting is that they might like feel the need to reroute Drew Holiday because Drew Holiday doesn't necessarily want to stay in Portland. I think they got Drew Holiday to be a vet with them, and I think that was smart. If he doesn't want to be there, that's not gonna help. Drew Holiday probably will just play a good soldier, but you kind of opt into that. Then they take I think the shocker pick of the first round.
Yep.
And it's another big. When they took Donovan Clingan last year, and they have Time Lord and they have DeAndre Ayton dominating under contract. So you have four centers. One, I don't think Zhang is gonna play, Yang Hassan is gonna play for a while. Like he seems like G League guy to me for Rip City Remix for a couple of years. But like, you have other needs. You could have just taken Will Riley, like any of the wings that go after this. Will Riley, Asia Newell, Nick Clifford, Jace Richardson, like Liam McNeely. Take any of those guys, and I think it makes more functional sense for your roster when you already have these centers. Are you just planning on trading one of these centers? Some of whom, like, maybe you're just like, we'll be able to trade one of these guys. But like, that's not good process to me. They just seem very confused on what they want to be. I love in a vacuum getting off of Simons and not paying Simons to bring in Drew. I think short term for your culture that could be good if it works out. It might not. And even if you like this guy, this just feels like it was a reach at 16. Could you have gotten back up into the first round at 25 and gotten him? Maybe. Did you need to do that there when you just probably have other more functional needs and this is like a 3 years away kind of thing? I don't know. I just didn't love the process here from Portland.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they traded a top 10. They used a top 10 pick on a total reach here. They did. It was 16. If they didn't love any of the other guys on the board at that point and they wanted to take a chance at Yang Hansen, I get it. I do overall agree with your point that I'm just not sure what the vision is right now for Portland, because when you trade for Drew Holiday and you're apparently committed to a guy like Jeremy Grant and all these things, all the word out of Portland was, hey, they traded for Drew Holiday. They want to compete next year. Okay. You took a complete project at 16.
Yeah.
Like, are you trying to compete or not? What exactly is the goal here? And they trade out of 11 where they could get a guy like Cedric Howard, who I thought made a lot of sense. They trade out of 11 where they could have taken Coward. They could have taken Derek Queen if they really wanted a center. I thought Carter Bryant made a lot of sense for them. Like, there was a lot of options here. And they take a center last year in the draft. What's his face? Why am I blanking on the name? The center that they took last year. The guy that I liked.
Donovan Clingan.
Donovan Clingan, thank you. They took Donovan Clingan, who's good as a rookie. He was good. You got him on the roster. You got Robert Williams on the roster. You still got DeAndre Ayton on the roster. They're going to try to trade those guys. By the way, they've been trying to trade those guys. Where are you going to send them? Who's taking those contracts? So, look, it's not like Yang Henson has to play. I don't think the vision is for him to play year one. We'll see what ends up happening. But, people are saying he's the Chinese Nikola Jokic. Okay.
I just never, if you tell me that, I just immediately don't believe it. That is, you should never bring the word Jokic and
right
national, like, don't do it.
Maybe they end up being right, but it was a weird draft for them, no doubt.
There was an Oregon Live story that went up about how they wanted him. They've been scouting him since 2023, and their plan was to hopefully keep trading back to maybe get assets. Maybe just love this guy. That happens. Better be right, I think.
I'm not sure Joe Cronin is a good general manager.
No.
The Damian Lillard trade, they almost got nothing for. And what's the move that they've made since he took over 3 years ago that you're like,
is the best trade getting Denny Avdia?
Yeah, that's really it.
Who's like a good player. I like Denny Avdia.
The best part of the Damian Lillard trade they got was Tamani Kamara, who I really like. But you're not building a team around Tamani Kamara and Denny Avdia.
No.
They won't even start Scoot Henderson. I don't know what the plan is in Portland. And apparently they want to compete, so good luck.
Good luck with that. Don't see it. Hansen, talk to you in 3 years. So we're going to do our favorite pick from the end of the first round. What's your favorite pick?
Other than my guy?
Well, talk to me about this guy. Why are you excited about him?
Well, first of all, a lot of people had him at 7 on their draft board. The Ringer had him at 7. Sam Vecini over at The Athletic had him at 7 on their board. I liked him a lot when I did my work on him. He's 6'6" point guard out of Illinois. Spent some time in Madrid, some time overseas. Has that European kind of wiggle and bounce to his game. It's a lot of elbows and angles, Not the most athletic guy, but he gets to his spots. And I thought he was the second best pick and roll playmaker in the draft behind Yegor Demin. He can just do it. And if he ends up being just Bogdan Bogdanovic as a little bit of a better passer, which is sort of his comp, that's a huge hit at 20 in the NBA draft. So I think that he got a steal here at 20. This might end up being the steal of the draft.
I love this for the Heat. I still am curious. I had the same kind of little bit I watched him I really liked. I'm curious to the Heat evolution feels like it's coming, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but this guy that feels like he could be part of that, which I think is interesting. It's like it feels like they've needed to rejigger this. I also really like the Pat Riley War Room reaction. Pat pumped.
Yeah. So they were excited. They didn't think he was going to be there. Nobody did. I don't know that they had him as high as 7 on their board, but they liked him. And this is a guy who is going to walk into that locker room day one, best passer on the team.
Yeah.
And that's not saying a lot because the threshold was not very high, but he's a guy who could fit with Davion Mitchell. They're expecting to bring him back, restricted free agent. He could fit next to Tyler Hero. He gets Tyler Hero off the ball, which is very important if he's on the court. If he's got the ball in his hands, getting Tyler Hero off the ball is just important because that's where he thrives. It just fits. And they haven't had a guy like this in a very long time. And you look at where the NBA is trending with these big point guard types, not to say he's going to be the next Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Cade Cunningham, Luka Doncic guy, but he's among the archetype, right? Like he looks the part. And sometimes that's half the battle. And to get a guy like that at 20 to take a swing like that, I think it's really huge. It's a team that was in need of talent. He comes in. And I think what you're seeing from Miami after not trading for Kevin Durant is a subtle pivot to going younger. We heard about the Jonathan Kuminga rumors. I don't want to talk a ton about that, but just
until
between
until it happens, until we have to talk about it.
But like between keeping the pick here and taking a projected lottery guy, top 10 guy, between just even being interested in 22, 23-year-old Jonathan Kuminga and not going all in for 37-year-old Kevin Durant, we're starting to see a subtle shift that maybe Miami is saying, you know what, let's put the brakes on everything, on the star pursuits and all that stuff. Let's just get younger, acquire talent, stack talent, figure it out later.
Okay. What's another pick you liked?
I really like Jace Richardson to Orlando.
So okay, this is one of my three that I had highlighted. I really like this one as well.
Yeah, not overcomplicated. I like Jace Richardson as a prospect. I think he's going to be able to score at the NBA level. I think he projects as a quality sixth man. Leadership stuff, locker room stuff, all off the charts. Jason Richardson's kid knows how to play in an NBA, in being an NBA environment, obviously. And when they traded Cole Anthony, they lost a big part of that locker room, and they kind of replaced him in Jace Richardson with a guy who projects very similarly on the court and off the court. So I think it's the right fit for not only on the court where it felt like they needed a ball handler to come off the bench, but in the locker room too.
Yeah. I think it's also just a good landing spot for the prospect. Like I think
Agreed.
that
Great call.
is just like a really nice
spot.
fit for him. It's like I think there's a point, depending on the year, depending on the teams, where if you slip a little bit, I think it's actually better for you as a player. You can theoretically get to a better team, fit your skill set. He's going to be surrounded by a lot of long guys still. He's not going to be pressed into doing too much because they just got Desmond Bane. And they have Powell, they have Franz. Like, he doesn't have to, like, jump into the deep end right away that he might have on another team without structure. This is, I think, a really good fit for Jace Richardson.
Yeah, and he's not overlapping with some of the other guys that they've drafted recently. He's got a very specific role on the team, I think, day one. What's another one that you liked at the end?
I really just... We hit on this a little bit, so I'm going to skip that one. I was going to talk about Liam McNeely because I think it's going to be good. I really like the Conan Niederhauser pick for the Clippers. They got a 6'11" dude with a 7'3" wingspan. He feels like a guy that is a roll of the dice pick, but a team that is cap stretched. They have Zubac. There's not like a pressure to have him. You can develop this 6'11" guy who's a good athlete into something. I think that's a really good use of 30 just to get something else. And you're not going to get an immediate impact guy at 30. The Clippers are kind of win now, but if they can kind of trickle in getting guys, they've tried this at times like BJ Boston, Jason Preston, like they've had guys come in that haven't really worked out. But you tell me you get a 6'11" guy with a 7'3" wingspan who had 10 blocks, who led the Big Ten in blocks last year, he can block really, really well for that size, moves well. It's a good roll of the dice at 30 for the Clippers. And I think it just feels like I like that more than maybe what like Boston did, taking a guy who can't shoot. Like, give me the guy who actually know what he is versus some of these wings who can't shoot late in the first. Because I just think I don't know if we can teach shooting. It's been proven that I don't know if teams are actually good at it.
I'm going to disagree with you. I didn't like the pick.
Okay.
I generally just don't like the Clippers draft picks. They have been drafting at the end of the first round a lot. None of them have worked out. The end of the first round is a really tough spot to find players who can be even in your rotation, even in the fringe part of the rotation. But they have been trying. They've been taking big swing after big swing at exactly these kinds of prospects. Kobe Brown, Moussa Diabate, all these guys have been picked over the last couple of years. They just don't. Yeah, they just don't work, and I don't trust the Clippers scouting department when it comes to these guys. You could argue that, hey, one of these guys have to hit eventually, and that is clearly the strategy here. They are taking the swing because they have bypassed safer picks time and time again here. So at the end of the first round, they're just taking swing after swing, and then maybe one of them hit. I get that as a concept. It feels a little too Excel spreadsheety for my taste. But you passed up a guy like Maxime Renaud, who had a first-round grade by a lot of scouts. You passed up a guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner, who I really like. I think he's a lot more polished, even if his ceiling isn't very high. If you can, to me, he's like probably one of the better rim protectors in this draft out of Creighton, equally as long and huge. And when I watched Creighton in the tournament last year, I was like, this guy's an NBA player. I don't know what he's going to do. He might end up just being like Mason Plumlee. But getting Mason Plumlee at 30 in the first round is a pretty good result.
It's a great result.
So, yeah, it just felt like they passed up on some of the safer guys for another big swing. And this has not worked not pretty much. Every time they've done this, it hasn't worked.
It's valid. The one other thing I want to throw out is just noting it because they did just win the title. Thunder got a center at 15. Dead center
not
of the
fair.
first round.
He's so perfect for them. I'm glad you brought this up.
Because he might not be. He's 18. He's 19. Will be 20 in December. Don't need him to play right away, but he's a 6'10" guy with a long wingspan.
7'6" wingspan. I think it was the second longest wingspan measured in the draft.
They got an absolute like monster athletic guy that they can slide in, and it's like in a year he might not play for them at all next year. It might be some G League guys, it might be some spare minutes. That's fine. But in a year, if they feel like they've nailed this and they have like their replacement for the not good Jalen Williams and Hartenstein to like eat up some of those center minutes, and it's Thomas Sorber, wouldn't be shocked.
This is such a home run pick for them.
They're the best.
Some people think that he can eventually stretch the floor because he's got some shooting touch there. Defensively, I think he could play right away. There's going to be the obvious learning curve for all that happens with all rookie centers, but you look at guys like Khalil Ware and Yves Missy, who were drafted around this range last year. It took them a minute, but by the end of the season, they were pretty much there, making a positive impact on the defensive end. I think Sorber could do that. Jalen Williams has a team option. I expect they'll probably bring him back.
Yeah.
But they're going to have to make a decision in a couple of years on Hartenstein, who's got a team option on the final year of that contract. And the play here is that Sorber can potentially just take over that spot at a much cheaper rate for at least a year or two before you have to worry about the rookie extension there. I love him. I'm a little surprised he fell this far. Oklahoma City got maybe the biggest steal. This guy's going to be perfect for them. Not just the on-the-court stuff, but then everything you hear about this guy off the court. He crushed every pre-draft interview. He is a kind of life of the party kind of guy who just walks into every room and just immediately holds court. People that are around him rave about this guy and his personality. And you just take that and put it into the Thunder locker room, and it's a perfect fit. He's a great locker room guy. This guy's going to walk into a championship atmosphere and just love life, even in Oklahoma City. To me, it's very similar to the Jace Richardson pick, where I think it's a home run on the court and in the locker room. You couldn't ask for, I think, a better fit for Oklahoma City in this draft. This, to me, was their dream pick.
They absolutely are the best at this. They've positioned themselves for this. Eventually, like, they won't have the same exact, like, way to fill this out, but, like, they are doing the smartest things possible to build themselves, not just for next year, but for the year after and the year after. There's no team better at this than the Oklahoma City Thunder. And to your point about the shooting thing, this is when I was spending the time I did looking at pre-draft stuff and particularly thinking about centers and just trying to figure out what like a modern center is a little bit. The thing that stuck out to me on his box score, it's a 72% free throw shooter.
Mm-hmm.
That's like really good for a big. And if you want to believe that a shooter and a guy can eventually stretch.
Yep. That's why people keep pointing to.
That's the check. Like the free, if you talk to people in the league, the thing that you need to have, not just like, oh, you shot 30% in college, can we bump it up? It's what is your free throw percentage? And it doesn't always correlate, but it's like a sign that there might be something there you can develop. Even if he doesn't. Also, Wes, to your point, it's like if he's gonna play if let's say he plays a little bit as a rookie and there's mistakes, he's gonna be theoretically covered by Shea, Caruso, Kason Wallace, Lou Dort, Chet Holmgren, Hartenstein, Kenrich Williams.
And the Thunder can afford to just play him in the regular season. I mean, they've got the proof of concept of what they can do in the postseason.
Yeah.
You could put that guy out there for 8 minutes at a time, and even with all the negatives, deal with it because the rest of your lineups are probably so good that it doesn't matter. And then you can also kind of learn on the fly a little bit.
I've seen plus 130, by the way, for the Thunder to win the West next year.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's crazy. Fucking good. I feel like we needed more time to celebrate them a little bit. I feel like this is another reason with the draft back. Let's just
Correct.
We have a whole week of Thunder celebration. They deserve it.
Yep.
Incredible team. A lot of guys drinking alcohol for the first time. Fuck, we could have done a whole pod on what Jalen Williams thinks of beer. He didn't like beer. He wanted tequila.
What did Chet Holmgren call it? Michelob Ultra? Can't even pronounce it.
I need Chet to not talk because every time I hear Chet talk, I'm a little more out.
It's a little bit of a Karl Anthony Towns syndrome, but
It's not as zesty as like the Instagram reels would tell you about Carl, but like Chet, books with words are books. Those are not books with words. Those are books. A little concerned, Chet. Okay. All right, that's gonna be it for the Just Basketball Show. We'll be back next week. Free agency's here. Not a great free agency class, but maybe we can play some matchmaker. Think about some team needs. Maybe we'll get some early leakage. There's still like more trades I feel like that haven't happened, Wes.
100%.
We're just waiting on more stuff. It's the NBA. Never stops. I'm Chris Manning. That's Wes Goldberg. Enjoy the weekend. Throw into the NBA. Enjoy the hoops that you can. We'll talk to you soon.